this film, like I'm fascinated with books to film and how they translate. And when I read that your book was going to be turned into a film, I was really surprised. I didn't know how that could be achieved. So tell me kind of how that came about and how they brought it to you. And did you have that same initial feeling, or were you like, yes, this would make a great movie?
Well, when I finished, first of all, writing the book, I loved it, writing it myself. I was my own first reader, and I was loving what I was reading. So I never thought beyond that. So I spent 4 years working on Life of Pi, and it was a jubilant experience. I did 2 years of research, 2 years of actually writing it and rewriting it, and I loved every minute of it. It was a joyful ride. And it was my third book. The first two had had good reviews but poor sales, and I thought Life of Pi was a very odd one to write next because of the subjects that it tackles, religion and zoos, neither of which are popular with your average urban novel reader. You know, Canada is quite a secular country, Quebec especially, where I was living at the time. So most mainstream novel readers aren't particularly knowledgeable or particularly interested in religion. Or at least in religion beyond its excesses. And most people think zoos are jails for animals. So the book took on both of those subjects, so I thought that was a daunting challenge to get readers to read it. So I was only concerned with the writing of the book. Then the book came out and things quickly started, I saw that I was wrong. That in fact, it was striking a chord and it was doing extremely well. Now, very early on, the book came out on September 11th, 2001. Very early on, Hollywood was interested. I can't remember when exactly it was acquired by 20th Century Fox, but it was very early on. And I discovered that Hollywood, as crazy a place as it is, as craven and commercial a place as it is, it's also an incredibly creative place. A lot of creative people work in Hollywood. And they're, of course, always searching for stories. They're constantly looking for stories that would become movies. So early on, 20th Century Fox acquired the story. First of all, as an option, and they outright bought it. And this was at the same time as the book was starting to do better and better. And I'm a writer. I'm not a filmmaker. I love cinema, but I've never even ever thought of going into filmmaking. So I was living my life as a writer, and to my surprise, my life as a successful writer. And Life of Pi was getting a better and better life as time went by. And in the background, things were happening in Hollywood. They said they were interested, and then there was a screenwriter involved first, and one director after another. And to be honest, I didn't give it a huge amount of thought because it seemed fairly unreal. Unreal, first of all, because I do live in Saskatchewan, actually initially I was living in Berlin, then I was living in Saskatchewan, and then I was touring. My world was very much that of a writer and a book that was doing well. So it was unreal in part because it was far away, but also, as you're alluding to, that the challenges of turning Life of Pi into a movie are quite daunting. They always say that the last thing you want to do when you're making a movie is shoot with children, because you're limited by the law of how long you can make them work. You don't want to shoot on water, because it's a very difficult medium. Water moves, of course, and you don't want your camera to be moving. And you don't want to work with animals, because animals are very hard to direct. You cannot direct an animal the way you can direct an actor. And this was a story that nearly combined all three. Now, in the novel, Pi is 16, and Suresh Sharma, who plays Pi in the movie, was 16 and then 17. So, of a legal age to be worked to death, basically. And he did work, indeed, incredibly hard. But still, you had the elements of water and animals. So it was a formidable challenge technically, but also even thematically. Some stories have a unity that Life of Pi doesn't have. Some stories, let's say, start in the same town, end in the same town, and feature the same characters, and there's sort of a unity to them. Life of Pi is in 3 parts, featuring very different characters in each one. In the first part, it's set in India, and you have a number of characters. Part 2 is in a lifeboat in the Pacific. Part 3 is an interrogation with Japanese investigators. And they're all integral to the novel, but they're nonetheless quite disparate. So even just thematically, it was going to be complicated bringing those together into something that presented a unity. So it demanded a big studio with a lot of money and an incredibly able director. And it took a while for all those elements, or for the main element of a director, of a good director, to fall into place. And so, as I said, it went from one director to another until finally Ang Lee got at the helm, and then it happened.
Mm. I'm a super big fan of Ang Lee films, and even like from his very early stuff. And you know, you've kind of got this dream team. In my life, it would be like, yes, David Magee writing the script and Ang Lee directing it. Are you a film buff? Was this something you were excited about, or were you like, yeah, I think he does good movies. He'll do, you know what I mean? When you were kind of brought these suggestions, were you excited about them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I grew up on movies the way anyone who's North American, doesn't live in the deepest, darkest woods is. No, I love movies. I've seen all kinds of movies. No, so I was very excited. I also love Ang Lee's movies. I mean, I was profoundly moved by Brokeback Mountain. I love The Ice Storm and Sense and Sensibility. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but I still admired it. Among other movies that he's done. So I was very happy that he got at the helm for a number of reasons. First of all, because he's an extremely versatile director. He doesn't always do the same thing. Nothing wrong with doing the same thing, but what's interesting about Ang Lee is every project is very, very different. This is, the same man who did Sense and Sensibility did Hulk.
Yeah.
He does contemporary stuff. He does, classics like Sense and Sensibility. He does things that require special effects, and then he does simple things like, shooting a shirt in Brokeback Mountain, a shirt that's in a cupboard. That scene at the end where Heath Ledger hugs that shirt. Very, very simple scene with no special effects. It's incredibly effective. He also does things that require special effects. So he's very capable technically as a director. He's very versatile. I've discovered he's unbelievably hardworking. He's absolutely dogged. He's fanatic about research, and he's also one of these directors who likes doing everything about a movie. He's interested in everything, from costume design to music. He has his fingerprints on everything. So he was, as you pointed out, he was the ideal director for this.